Hey, DTA Nation, with the spring season right around the corner, that means it's time to start planning those grad parties. Old Southern Barbecue has great catering options for your senior. You can go with the barbecue staples like wings, ribs, or barbecue sandwich sliders, but they even have an incredible mac and cheese bar option as well. Congrats to all the seniors from DTA and OSB as you head into the final chapter, and go to oldsoutherncatering.com to get your grad party planning underway. And make sure to tell them that DTA sent you. Are you looking for a dedicated partner for your lacrosse needs? ES Lacrosse has got you covered. If you're brand new to the game, a seasoned vet, or a dedicated lacrosse parent, ES Lacrosse is the go-to partner for Minnesota Lacrosse and DTA Nation. Whether you need new gear, a restringing of your current setup, custom uniforms or apparel for your team, or one of their awesome starter sets for your brand new lacrosse player, the selection, expertise, and service at ES Lacrosse is unmatched. You can visit them in store at one of their 3 metro locations in Woodbury, Chanhassen, and Vadnais Heights, or visit them online at eslacrosse.com.
And we welcome Lance Kuehn to Down the Alley, head coach of the Rosemount Irish, official source of Section 6. I've been talking to Lance over the last couple of weeks. He's gonna take a stab and go after Cater as the smartest guest on Down the Alley of all time. Lance, welcome to Down the Alley.
Thanks for having me, PMAC.
Lance is, when I think about Rosemount lacrosse and coaches in general across the state, I think about Rosemount. Lance and Rosemount go hand in hand, and there's very few other coaches you can say that about. Did you start the program in Rosemount?
Yeah, I was pretty fortunate. After I graduated college, that was the first year that every kid had to take chemistry in the state, and the Minnesota State High School League was sanctioned. So every high school was looking for a chemistry teacher and a lacrosse coach, and I kind of had to pick. And I picked Rosemount because there was nothing, and I got to start it all. It's been every culture bit, every player that's gone through, I've been their best and worst coach. If anything that is associated with Rosemount is gone through me, gotten my stamp of approval. And I take every win and every loss personally because it's my thing. It's been a wild 19-year ride and still going at it.
Yeah, I was going to say, what year was that? Because, as a player, I played against you as the coach.
I really tried to find the old scouting reports. I tried.
Oh, did you? No, that's okay. That's okay.
So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of coaches that I coach against now that I'm like, I remember you as a player. I think of Grings. That's a prime example. We talk a lot, and I was like, I coached against you, man. Aaron Pierson of East Ridge, same thing. Coached against him. It's just kind of fun to see this mixture now of old guard, new faces, and it's kind of fun. Coached against you. Remember a section championship game? So
yeah, all-time game comes up every episode.
I know it does.
I learn a little bit more about you. I know you hold other positions and you're on other boards. Before we start talking Section 6, what other areas you involved in lacrosse around the state?
So in the States, I'm on the Rosemount Youth Board, help run that and work with YLM to make sure that it continues to grow. I was really a big part of growing in the South Suburban area, Dakota County, and I want to make sure it continues to grow. And that's all my lacrosse camps are open to everyone. And I've had Lakeville, Farmington, Hastings, trying to help Brian over at Hastings bring guys up. And Egan, my neighborhood kids, I play with them. So kind of that's on the youth side. I've been a part of the Minnesota State High School Boys Lacrosse Coaches Association pretty much ever since, and here's old name, Greg Vish of Hill Murray started it. And I was a president for a while, and then John Junker took over, now Andy Lee. I stayed on the board role as the treasurer, so I help with Section 6 seating and all section team, and then I go to the state meetings there. Andy Lee and I, along with a few other guys, we work on proposals. We're trying to get the roster expanded to bigger sizes. We're trying to expand the season. We're trying to improve our sports so our guys are more competitive in the nation. Because if you look at the number of games we play versus other teams or other states, like we're half a season. I talked to a good buddy named RJ who coaches in North Carolina. If we win all of our games, go 18-0, still won't match his regular season. And like how can our guys be competitive when other states get so much more lacrosse? And with volleyball starting as a brand new sport, we got started, and here's some history, in 2007, and they put us as the last starting sport because why? They didn't want us to compete with established sports. Here comes volleyball that's started now, and they get to start 2 weeks earlier than us. How's that not competing against established sports? So trying to work through that, and Phil at the league, we're just trying to do that, and it's like running through molasses, and it's been a battle that we've been battling for 19 years. Our season is actually longer now than it originally was, if you can think about that. Yeah, we're just trying to do that. And then 4 years ago, I felt like there were some old names that were starting to become whispers in the wind. And I wanted to make sure that we honor some of those guys that helped found lacrosse in Minnesota back in the early 1990s, when boot cuts and grunge were all in. And I started along with other people, I kind of spearheaded the Minnesota State High School Coaches Association Hall of Fame. And so far, we've inducted 5 members. Our inaugural class was Bob Felter of Eagan, legendary coach, one of the top 5 winningest coaches title in 2017. Scott Cater, third all-time on the list for wins coach in just MHSL. If you count his NBSLA, he was the first guy to do 200. He is the current in the leaderboard. And then an old name, Mark Helenek. He did a lot of work originally back in the day, coaching all around the state, original Loons coach. So we honored them. And then last year, we honored Rob Horn, pretty winning coach. Does have the top winning percentage at 88 win percentage as the head coach, co or solo. And then Matt Dunbar, he was the original Rave coach, which was Rosemount, Apple Valley, Eagan, or Eastview, depending on how you slice it. Coach back in the day, Air Force graduate, helped me out, helped Eagan, helped Eastview, helped Lakeville. There's a guy who's helped everyone. He started with me in 2011 when I was only 4 years in, and some of the stuff I still do to this day. So that's kind of where I kind of help out around. I've been with a few travel teams here and there. I've done some coaches clinics, but gotta stop putting irons in the fire.
No, love it. And I love that you teased, some of the MSHSL, conversations. I'm trying not to bite on some of the topics, because we'll be having you and some others from that board on in a future episode. So I'm not going to take the bait yet, but
Gotcha.
I can't wait to dive into some of those topics and much, much more. We're having you on tonight to talk Section 6. And before we look forward, I want to look a little bit backwards on, maybe some recent history of Section 6. I'm a proud member of Section 6 as well. I think it's, I'm super biased. I think it's the best and hardest and deepest, all the adjectives section in the state. Would love to hear, recent history, and a look back, into the section before we look forward.
Yeah, I agree. You cannot, in any sport, find a section that is more high quality, top line average than Section 6 in Rosemount High School boys lacrosse. I mean, I'm looking at the hockey tournament right now. Didn't do much teaching today. Did a lot of watching of hockey. There's in those sections, there's 1 or 2 teams that battle out in the section final. Our 4-5 game, in Section 6 is harder than some section finals. And it's not a dig at other sections. It's just that's the level that Section 6 at. Historically, Section 6 winner has won the state tournament 6 times. 10 times they've been runner up. And hey, that's hats off to you, PMAC. I mean, that's your squad there. 3 third place. So 28 times a team from Section 6, current program, has made the state tournament. Now there's been 19 state tournaments, so that means we used to be separate, and now we're together. So you got these programs that are like now in the same section, and so now it opens up for other ones. So we got this huge historical run. Thinking to like Prior Lakes run, you've had 7 section finals until last year. EP 12 section finals. Now let's put those guys together. Where's the room for anyone else? I mean, honestly, all right. So you look at that, and that's kind of crazy. And I think about why that is. And PMAX, stop me at any time. Welcome, Ted. I think about why that is. And this is kind of, I was digging, like, you got great youth programs in a ton of those communities. 3 of the 5 top winningest coaches are in Section 6. Active coaches. All right. And those 3 guys have 522 wins combined. And then you look at our section, the results from last year at the end of the season, we had the number 2, number 6, number 8, number 10, number 14, number 17 team rank.
Is that good?
And we had our top 6 finish higher than some sections number 2. So it's just the section of death. But that's good. I mean, it stinks for you. It stinks for me. Ted's down there in section 1 with gummy bears and raindrops and just getting there. But you got to battle. And what I think we see from that is what I first said, is the Section 6 team 6 times has won it all. 10 times came runner up and a bunch of third place. So that tells you that you come out of here, you're going to do good. Who knows what happens this April when they realign the sections? Our section of death is somewhat our fault. And I point that because while we have grown in areas of lacrosse, we haven't grown overall in the states. Since 2019, we have less teams. We have more co-ops. And with Burnsville folding and Apple Valley folding, we have 2 less teams. To balance the sections, we needed 2 more teams. The next geographic would have been Shakopee and Prior Lake, or Lakeville North, Lakeville South. Imagine that happening. I know Ted would be like, yeah, let's do that. But, that's kind of our fault. And that's where, we got to grow the sport a little bit. That would change the sections up. And, but because Burnsville and Apple Valley are gone, that's why EP and Shakopee joined us.
And there could be another that could only get worse in Section 6. Like there could be more co-ops coming. I feel like, not to call anyone out, but
no, there could. Holy Angels hasn't had a lot of numbers in recent years. Kennedy could co-op again, and that would change things up. Now, with that, PMAC, we also have to have growth in other areas. A challenge that I give to you is go start a team in Cannon Falls. All right, be the original bombardier. And what would that would start to shift things up. I'd love to see Rochester go back to 3 teams. I would love to see Red Wing, Winona start to build up those teams, because those are big areas that don't have teams. That if Hermantown can have a team, if Ricori could have a team, Red Wing, Winona, they should be able to have a team. But it takes someone from that area to move, to go teach there, to be a part of it, to bring up the community. And I know how much effort it took me to start a program, to build it up. It's going to take someone special to do that somewhere else. And I don't know if we got those guys right now. And that's another whole chapter.
That could be a whole episode. We might have to have you back on for that subject specifically. Side note, Winona, it'd be great to have a high school team there. Even better to have a D2 college team there. Just going to throw that out there.
my 2012 captain played there and talked about it, and he loved it. He would love to see that jump up because it's a good little spot. Like it could travel easily to the Wisconsin teams and the
Yep.
Iowa teams, like go play Dubuque. It won't be that far.
And it's like a high woman to man ratio according to stats. We're statting it up. So
Yep.
that could be a selling point for, to get men's lacrosse players there. Back to section 6. Looking forward to 2025 now. Would love to just go, kind of team by team is how, we've been doing it.
Okay.
Off of, the rankings of last year, and just taking a peek at the bracket from last year. This was a section tournament. We've talked about, the depth. This tournament ended up being madness. The 1 and 2 seed were not in the section final. The 4 seed came out of the section, which we'll get to in a little bit. The 1 seed last year, the Lakers, I'm kind of familiar with that program. Lakers were the 1 seed. I know they graduated quite a bit on offense. What do you have on the Lakers coming into 2025?
Hey, whether it's a Tuesday or Thursday or a Saturday game, it's always Taco Tuesday. I feel like you can never have enough tacos on a team. So I know looking at the numbers, Jack and Max, you graduated 89 points there. But, see George and Tushi coming in. Those guys were definitely on the radar last year. Now it's the hunt for Red October. They're the only beacon on the radar for right now. But after the Lakers get a few games in, we might see who's the next guy up. And that's the stat of the Lakers that is an unsung heroic stat you'll ever find, is that they are the epitome of next guy up. And you think, the chamber's empty. They're just loading another magazine of guys. You look at their JV, and I know some coaches dismiss JV games. They're only an hour, they're running time, some varsity guys. But when your JV team dominates the next guy's JV team over and over again around conference, those guys are itching to be the next guy up. And those JV guys have been going to winter league, they've been going to winners practice to sign up because they want to be the next guy up. They don't want to be on that JV roster again. And so the Lakers, with that internal competition, you see new guys rise up. Their staff, they know who's going to be probably the next guy up, the next shining stars. But as an outsider, that's 45 minutes away on a bus ride. I don't know who
it
that
should only be 15, but it's off of 42, the worst road in the state. It should be a 15-minute drive, folks.
Apple Valley got a deal in 83 on streetlights, and they put them every 100 feet. So I get that. So yeah. So looking at that, I'm seeing those. You lost 2 big guys, but I always tell guys, like, I think back to some of my rosters. I had some years where I had 70-point guys, I had 80-point guys, and I look at the next year's senior. I go, we're still going to score 80 points. It's going to be you. It's going to be so. I still see the Lakers getting 200 points this year. They're going to split it up. You can't just key in on one guy. They're going to spread it out, and you're going to have 4 or 5 50-point guys. And so we just got to see. I know who 2 of them probably will be, but who are going to be the next 2? And that's the surprise that the Lakers got. Are hiding from us right now playing bluff.
Yeah.
So.
On a couple things with Prior Lake too, they get Griffin Marshall, their faceoff guy, back. He took 280 faceoffs last year at 58%. So that key position there. Their goalie comes back. All their close D come back. But a
They lost CJ.
Yeah,
so I was gonna bring him up, Ted. Yeah, you got to shout out CJ. He's gonna be a big loss for the Lakers.
CJ, yeah. Obviously, CJ is an amazing player. That will change some things, in transition for them. But kind of a shout out. We don't talk a lot on this podcast about short stick defensive midfielders. So they have Cade Wozni and Joe Dietrich, 2 guys that were great shorties. They have a whole season under their belt at varsity. I know short sticks don't get a lot of love on the defensive end, but As an offensive guy, we want to find where we have matchups. A lot of times that comes from the short sticks. Not always against Prior Lake. They're not an easy matchup to win. So now you're kind of figuring out, okay, if we can't beat short sticks, now what's going to happen? So um, I do agree. Have to replace some big names on offense, but I like a lot of the players they have coming back on the defensive end.
But I don't see the Lakers trying to win games like Jefferson 5-4. They're going to find a way on offense to score a few more.
Double digits.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Get at least 10.
Speaking of the Jaguars, they were the number 2 seed team in the Section 6 tournament last year, 12-2. They won their conference. And like the Lakers, they had a goalie goal against the Red Knights. What do we have on the Jaguars in 2025?
Well, that goalie goal might not happen by the same guy. All right. They graduated Bennett. That's a huge, huge hole to fill. But Cater being a goalie coach, I know he's going to come up with someone. He's going to train them really well. And so it'll be a drop, but it's not going to be, off a cliff. They return Graf, the final Graf era. I love the Graf family. I've worked with them for years, but at points, you're like, another one. Like, here we go. All right. That'll be he's a big guy. He's smart. He knows the game of lacrosse. He is a mindful player. It's hard to get into his head, and he will get into yours head. And watching him against my own players, watching him when I scout, he can kind of just twist you a little bit because he beat you and get you frustrated. And then the next play, you'll overcommit, you'll go and he'll bait you, and then boom, you're done. I think one of their key returners, I think it's Mason, their faceoff guy,
Yep.
like 68.7%. Unreal. So I think that'll be huge. But they did lose their second leading scorer. They lost Baker at close defense, and that guy was a menace. So they're going to have to get a new D1. But I don't think that guy will be to the level of Baker. Baker was elite. But Cater does do a really good job on his core defense. And so I won't see, the core probably be as good. They just won't have that number one guy, but he'll come up with a scheme to adjust for it. If he knows that he doesn't have a top matchup against Prior Lake or Benilde, he's going to adjust it so that he knows that that's not a lockout defender. And his defense will adjust for it. And so I don't see issues being there, but they're still going to win a ton of faceoffs. They're still going to control the ball and make sure that every possession counts. If you were to rank teams on offensive efficiency, I bet Jefferson's pretty high up there.
Yeah, and talking about their offense, they lost Carson Weiler, who had 35 points, like you mentioned, their second leading scorer, but they get number 1, Graf, number 3, Mason Van Brunt, their faceoff guy, also plays a lot of offense. He had 29 points last year. Lucas Whammer, 28 points. Jay Howitt, 21 points. Troy Stanton, 16. Nathan Morrow, 12. So they have 5 or 6 guys that had double-digit varsity points last year. So these are guys that have played have varsity experience. Like you said, they're going to get the ball on offense. I think the biggest question mark, though, as you said, their all-American caliber goalie that they've had. I felt like he was there forever. I don't know, but he has graduated. So a 70% save percentage last year. Unbelievable.
With the goalie, with the deep hole, you hear about these football coaches that are quarterback friendly, system friendly. Is this kind of like, oh, they graduated goalie, they graduated defenseman? It doesn't matter because the system, or am I thinking way too deep into that?
No, I think you're right. Like, if their next goalie up, can't take in tight shots, and has a little trouble with that, they'll go into their zone defense one of like 5 they have that they've done over the years that Cater has in a yellow notebook that's aged with 4 rings of coffee stains. And they'll pull out something so that their system will match their quarterback that's back there on defense. By the way, for those that don't know, Cater and I are good friends. We've known each other for 19 years. This is just friendly jabs.
Yep.
Looking forward, the number 3 seed from last year, the Edina Hornets, coming off a really, really good season, fell short in the section final to Eden Prairie, who we'll get to in a little bit, by 1 goal, an absolute barn burner. Edina, I'm getting a feeling that this could be the team of the section. What do you think?
Yeah, if I was a betting guy, I got a plus 1800 on Edina right now. They're returning a ton of points. They're returning pretty much the entire defense, and a goalie, from what I saw. And Ted, it looks like you got the stats up, but you know, their top 3 scorers, 134 goals, not points, goals. And like, come on. Like that, who are you going to stop? An attackman, a midi? Because if you put one on top of there, you got a third guy to stop. And that's a lot of defenses in the state of Minnesota are really good at stopping 1 or 2 guys. Once you get to that third guy and you get your third pole, your third D mid, you're tough. And I'm seeing big things there. Coach Lee does a wonderful job of getting his teams ready. Edina 4 years ago, 5 years ago, is not the same Edina now. Coach Lee, he built up Kennedy during his tenure. Kennedy went from a sub 500 team to an over 500 team. They beat Jefferson one of his years. So he built that program while he was there, and he's doing the same recipe on a much higher level at Edina. And it's really neat to see. Super dedicated coach, knows his guys ins and out. He knows how to push them, does a wonderful job with that. And so, yeah, this is a big year for him. I think one of the keys with that is you don't see as many Edina kids transferring to private schools, whether it be Vanille, whether it be other places. And these are lacrosse guys, hockey guys, whatever. But you see a lot of lacrosse guys, and that shows, how much Lee works with the U14s, works with the U12s, and they know his name. They see his face, they know his name, and so they're staying there, staying in the pipeline, and that's probably some of the success that he's had there with that. So yeah, I definitely see an over/under being pretty high, that they're making minimum section final, probably coming out. But we have some really quality programs and coaches here that sometimes it can be any given day who it is, especially when we talk about number 4 seed here.
Yeah, they Edina, like you said, returns pretty much their entire team. And not only do they get everybody back, they also get a superstar that was out all year with an injury last year in Luke Seaman, another midfielder that I would call like a Division I caliber talent. I don't know if he's committed or not, but big body. Their midfield, we talked about on the last episode too. It is that could be the top midfield line in the state just by just sheer like ability. And so, they not only do they get everybody back, they add another piece that they were missing last year to an already good team. So, they are loaded for sure. And this is a window for them to not just win the section. I mean, they could be state tournament favorites if you ask me.
Oh, absolutely. Plus, their entire coaching staff, all great mustaches. It's impressive. Just
There you go.
The number 4 seed, Eden Prairie, a newcomer to Section 6 last year, just blew the doors off of the section, came into the tournament as a 4 seed, went to the dance and did pretty well. They lose Danny Burke. Lance, are they going to be able to reload and continue on this hot streak without number 1?
Yeah, Danny had 65 points, did some damage last year, but of all the coaches that are out there, Ward has been to the state tournament 10 times. Like he knows how to get those teams in sections. And to my ignorance, like when we're doing the section seating and whatnot, like I didn't want to face Prior Lake. I didn't want to face Jefferson. They already beat up on us twice. I knew Edina was stacked. I was like, my best bet is playing EP. look what happened. And like they surprised us. Thought we prepared well on film. They did a great job. You would some say like they didn't have the best regular season of Eden Prairie past, but they've been to the state tournament 12 times, or sorry, not state tournament 10 section championship 12 times. So Ward knows how to get those guys prepared and get them ready for that and scout and take away your advantages and just dominate on your weaknesses. And that's what I think he did in the state tournament, or the not the state tournament, but the section run. Is he took a team that on paper wasn't the 1 seed, wasn't the 2 seed, wasn't the 3 seed, and was able to knock down those dominoes through scouting, through motivation, through coaching. I think he did a really good job of that. So losing Danny, yeah, but I see 2 more guys, Brady Palmer and Cole, coming in, returning with some significant points. They got they're sophomores, I believe, Ted. So now they get a little bit more maturity underneath them. Probably are bigger bodies, bigger frames. So I could see him getting a few more points there, returning their top pole as well. But again, what are we gonna do on faceoffs, and what do we got for a goalie? So that's what I don't know about those teams. Is that their weakness? But Ted,
Yeah.
what do you got?
Yeah, no, I agree. Like they find athletes, they find what works, and like you said, the coaching's there. They do return Max Kukla, superstar defensive player, Isaiah Hasenkamp. So there was 2 starting poles for them, and they, like Edina, get a Division I talent back from an ACL injury last year in James Anderson, who I believe is headed to Air Force next year, to add to that defense. So the section's got a lot of good defenses, and Eden Prairie will be leaning on that this year. And kind of like you said about Prior Lake or Rosemount or Edina, all these teams, there's guys on JV that probably are just, they had to wait till Danny Burke graduated, and now they get to be the guy that scores 70 points. So I'm done making the mistake of counting Eden Prairie out. And we kind of razz them, not razz them. In the episode that, the last episode, we talked about Hopkins Park beating them in the regular season as like, quote unquote, the biggest upset of the year last year. Well, they kind of had that redemption tour then and had upsets of their own to go into the state tournament. So they kind of balanced maybe that weird loss in the regular season, like you said, a weird regular season with an incredible state tournament run.
On to the 5th seed last year, Rosemount. I feel like this squad's team's window is just opening with this young goaltender, and as long as he's on the squad, Rosemount's going to have a chance. Lance, you know better than me. What are the Irish looking like in 2025?
Well, we're older. Last year we were a really young team. Over half our team was sophomores and freshmen. And so now half our team has overgrown more, a year experience, the big lights, the playoff. I mean, think about our roster. There's a ton of guys in that roster that never set foot in a playoff like atmosphere. So I'm thinking now that we have a little bit more experience, some of those close games, we had a few games that were those, like, again, the worst lead you can ever have in lacrosse is a 2-goal lead. Now we'll learn how to win those and claw back from those. Noonan, our 6'2" goalie, is coming back. And he did a hell of a job for us last year. Did a great job. We did lose Connor Schauer, who's at Lewis. Super good speed, headsy player. And so we lost that. Lost our top D-pole, Salick, Lucas Salick. But we're returning all of our attack, except for Nico. Nico's down in Dubuque. But he wasn't one of our leading scorers on the return. But Jack Lenmark, Peyton Sickle coming back. I'm personally excited to see what my freshman polls can do. I know this is kind of playing out some of my cards out there, but we have some super talented freshman polls that I bet are fighting for varsity time mid-season once they catch up to the speed of the game. So we're returning a bunch of guys after their first year on varsity, everyone's going to get that experience back. We had one of the things I do is every fall I interview our players. We do a little meeting to set goals, leadership, volunteer stuff, and there's a lot of looking back and like what we could have done better and talking. And the guys are hungry. Now, unfortunately, 58% of my team plays a fall and winter sport, so a lot of guys haven't touched a lacrosse stick in a while. But now that the snow's gone, oh wait, you know they'll come by and it'll be. I think we'll make a punch this year, and hopefully some of our games are a little bit closer.
Yeah, I know. I mean, obviously being a conference foe, not a section foe, we know we've seen Rosemount and yeah, I like the goalie, obviously he's superstar, but I really like this Jack Lenmark kid. Really smart offensive player. I mean, he's not just one of those guys that, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong or let me believe this if I am wrong. But it's not a guy you just give the ball to and let him go win a matchup and score. He does a lot of damage away from the ball, and it's nice to have guys like that. He's really slick. 40 points last year. So just a shout out to him. He's always a guy that popped out on film where I was like, dang, like kind of don't really notice him, and then all of a sudden he has 4 goals on you.
Well, and his two other line mates from last year that at attack, Peyton Sickle and Cooper Sorensen, both box attackmen. And so playing in tight, playing in space, playing off the body, work really well with Jack. You know, being that quarterback down there is super nice. So I see those three heavy hitting down there and creating a lot of tension down south. And I think open up for a lot of opportunities for our middies this year.
Moving on to the number 6 seed, Eastview, Apple Valley, the combos. Looking at their record, from last year, you might be like, how are they, ahead of Shakopee or, in the mix? But you look at all their scores, a lot of 1-goal games, a lot of 2-goal losses, a couple more 3-goal losses. This is a team that was right there until the end against Edina, a 2-goal loss in sections. Eastview, Apple Valley, what do you have on the combos this year?
Well, the combos are growing. I mean, they got 3 teams now. They got a B squad going as well. They're another team. Had a guy out for injury, Carter Harris. He'll be back this year. Super talented player. Played attack, played midfield throughout his career. Has matured a bunch. I mean, he started playing varsity lacrosse as an 8th grader back in the Amy Caines day at.
Wait, he's back?
Yeah, he's a senior.
Oh my God. I thought he was gone.
Nope.
Oh, that's terrible news.
Tore his ACL at the Rosemount game.
Oh no.
You guys are welcome. But they lose Gilby, which is a huge loss, and they lose Jameson, their goalie. There's again 2 positions I feel in the team where if you have an all-star, it's a huge difference, and that's a face-off and a goalie. And if you have those 2 stars, like you can be average everywhere else, but if you're below average at face-off and goalie, that it's a tough season for you. And so I don't know if they have a backup at goalie. Having 3 teams last year with a prep team, JV and varsity, I assume they have some goalies in the pipeline, at least 2 more. But they do return Tyson Bell, who had 34 points last year. So the bank isn't completely empty over there on the halfway point on 42. But I bet, I don't know how Carter was training in the summer, but I bet he'll want to get a few points this year, being he only had half a season last year. Actually, he had a fourth of a season. So
Eastview, Apple Valley last year, like PMAC, you're right. Like the record maybe wasn't there, but just experience playing them. They were a gritty, tough team. Like they were not an easy team to play against. Another shout out, because I guess we're just shouting out short stick defensive midfielders. This Connor Colson player, he graduated, but he was one of the better short stick D middies I've seen personally over the last few years. I'll be interested to see how they replace him. They were able to, at least against us, do some things, unique things defensively, because they could allow him kind of to be on an island and not really worry about him getting beat. But he also had 26 points. So to call him a D midi might be an insult. He was a two-way midi, but great defensive short stick midfielder.
And I'd also say, like, I'd like to point out, like, they did a lot of those 1 goal, 2 goal, 3 goal games without some of their coaching staff. They
Oh
had
yeah.
their coaching staff had some issues, and not bad, like, not, nothing illegal or anything, but they just had to work through some things. And they had some sub coaches or JV coaches helping out, and the guys really worked through that and played well and kind of self coached each other and how to fix things, which, you know, if their coaches were there, is it 2 goals, 1 goal the other way? And so we got to be, watch out for that this year. Hopefully, again, those same things don't happen to those good coaches over there. And yeah, then it might flip the other way. So watch out for that. So that's a dangerous 6 seed. I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
like you put them in another section, they're a 3 seed, a 2 seed. Like, dang.
Well, if you thought the 6 seed was dangerous, just wait for the 7 seed. Shakopee, after a slow start, went on kind of a heater. I believe they were a pretty young team last year, if I'm not mistaken. I expect this team probably the best seven. Is it fair to say the best 7 seed in the state last year?
Yeah,
I think they're going to be
absolutely.
back for more. What do we have in the Sabres? Because them at 7 just seems wrong.
Yeah. They're returning Zach Dutcher, 25 goals last year on a team that didn't score a lot. Their biggest loss was Tanner, the behemoth of a deep hole. And Jacob Lee's coming back, but they have a lot of young talent. I believe their sophomore class is huge and talented, but like Rosemount of last year, you know, they're starting to get their varsity cleats on. They're under the big lights. All right, do I have enough eye black for this game? Is it too much, too little? They'll get those nerve things out, and they'll build up. They will be better than they were last year. They graduate a lot from the state championship run team from the year before. So then you come back, and now all of a sudden you need some guys that weren't on that playoff roster now to step up in that role. And again, that the best programs can reload and get those guys in there. And I think that's where Shakopee is going to build up. Pollock's putting everything into it. He was frustrated at going from here to here, and I don't think it's going to happen again this year.
Is everyone in the South Suburban have strong sophomore and freshman classes? Is
Yeah,
it? I don't know if it's a COVID thing or what, but like it seems like Rosemount, good underclassmen. Prior Lake has some pretty good underclassmen. Shakopee has good underclassmen. I know Farmington has good underclassmen. It seems like everyone in the South Suburban has great underclassmen coming up.
well, I think we see the underclassmen because last year's seniors, this year's seniors, they were the ones that were really hit heavily during COVID. Their U14, their freshman year, things just weren't normal. And I think a lot of people stepped away from sports. But then the current sophomores, they were in that really key U14, U12 age range where kids still try lacrosse and it became fun and people joined. And that's why we have this big bump that's coming up in all that sophomore freshman class era.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was last season or maybe it was 2 summers ago. I think the three of the final four teams for U14 A and B for the state tournament were South Suburban youth programs or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the 2 years ago, Rosemount, it was Rosemount, Shakopee last year, Rosemount, Shakopee, Edina, EP, were semis. ECU, they did two B teams versus an A and a B. They fought it out in the third place game. Shakopee and Prior Lake made it really far in the B, true B bracket. So, you take all the YLM and now you look, oh, there's six Section 6 teams in the semifinals between the age groups. Like, come on. Like, the only one that was in there that wasn't a Section 6 team would be Minnetonka. Minnetonka was in there, and Stillwater was in there quite a bit. So yeah, it's there'll be the section of death is not dying. It will be the title for a
And
while.
yeah, another note too. It looks like Shakopee's goalie last year was an eighth grader.
Yeah,
Uh,
so Polly had an eighth grader goalie because the goalie was the best in the program. Now, is he elite? Now he's the best in the program right now, but man, give that guy a few years of face. Well, again, think about the amount of training he got as an eighth grader on a varsity roster versus a U14 schedule. This kid's already had like 2 extra seasons compared to any other eighth grader in that training. So
yeah.
2029, Mr. Goalie right there. Let's start hanging it up.
Coming in at the 8th seed, Kennedy. We talked a little bit about them, but they're another team. Had a slow start come early May. They started winning a bunch of games. It's unfortunate. Like they're in section 6. They're a tough section. We could talk about the class things, maybe in when we have you on later. But Kennedy had a decent season. I think they return a bunch of seniors back. Do you have anything on Kennedy?
I don't have too much on Kennedy, other than, if you talk about teams that are doing the best with what they have, I think Kennedy is there. Like if you take the athletes you have and improve them and see what you can do with them, Kennedy's getting the most bang for their buck. They do a great job scheduling teams that they'll have competitive games with. But again, the tough part, they're in our section. Um, and that it makes them an 8 seed, where again, you go to some other section, they could push up to a 5 seed. My hopes for them though is they stay competitive, and the Bloomington youth continues to support them and try to make sure that they get enough athletes so that we don't have a co-op situation like unfortunately happened with their hockey team. This was the last year of Kennedy hockey, and it kind of, as a guy who grew up playing Minnesota hockey, that kind of stings a little bit.
Yeah. No, and Kennedy, like you guys said, a lot of seniors on this team, between Burnsville and Kennedy. So like they have a good group of kids that have played together now for a couple years. Shout out Jack Vadovnik, their goalie. Only 3 games of stats in the Lac sub right now, but he faced 76 shots in 3 games on goal. So you kind of break out the math, like that's a lot. It's 25 shots a game that he's seeing. So saw a lot of rubber, but had almost 58% save percentage. He's an anchor. Know him personally, and PMAC does as well. But he's an anchor for them on the back end, and they do have a couple pieces of guys. And again, Section 6, tough place to be. But like PMAC said, they won some games last year. They schedule accordingly. And they make that a fun experience. So shout out Coach Ben over there for doing a good job.
Yeah, Ben does an awesome job, and it's fun seeing him at the section meetings and talks about his guys, and you clearly see the passion he has for all of his players. And it's wonderful to see that.
We've kind of already we've talked about the history, and I assume Section 6 will have similar expectations or predictions, but how in 2025, how do you think Section 6 fares, across the state? And, I think there's a lot of, potential teams that could come out of this section, whoever makes it out, how do you think Section 6 will do at the big dance?
I think as long as whoever wins comes out healthy, that's always the thing, is they come out, because you think about EP going through, a, a 4 seed coming out. I mean, a 4 seed. When else in Minnesota State high school history has a 4 seed come out? The answer is never. The 4 seeds never come out. We've had 3 2s and 1s, but we've never had a 4 seed.
Really? That's a stat.
Yes, I told you. I'm out cater.
Wow.
All right?
Okay. I didn't know that.
Shout out to the Minnesota State High School boys lacrosse official historian, Darren Nelson of OPC. The guy's got stats for days. So I was able to look that up, and Darren, although retired, still keeps the stats on every player, every coach, every team, every program, everywhere. So you can find all that stuff. He does a good job with that. So Yeah, EP was the first. So if whoever comes out, they're gonna take the lead in the state tournament. Now, you got the heavy favorites, which I know you were section 6, so you've already done 5, and you got PL, you got Edina, you got I mean Jefferson, you got Rosemount. I mean, we're a dark horse because now we were the 5 seed. We were at the bottom of the bracket. I bet we're gonna be fighting a little bit more this year. All right. And so if you come out, all right, they have a good shot. Now, the other sections also have high caliber, but they don't have a 7th seed like ours. So those teams, the first 2 rounds, might not face good challenges until the section final. They'll remain healthier, which is good for the state tournament. But all of our teams are gonna have to battle, play tough, and come out of these 1-goal sore, body beating up 1-goal games. And yeah, but I think whoever comes out is going to do well.
We're not asking our guests this year for rankings, but do you have one bold prediction for Section 6 boys lacrosse in 2025?
I don't think the 1 seed's going to win. I think whoever gets the 2 or 3 seed is going to have a little bit of chip on their shoulder and play a little bit tougher. That's my bold prediction there.
Lance, thank you for coming down the alley as the Section 6 source of 2025. Good luck to you this spring. And, we're going to see you at the field soon.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. And thank you to Lance for coming down the alley, talking Section 6 boys lacrosse with us. And we're going to transition right into some girls chatter, Section 6. We're welcoming on Katie and Heather Pierson, head girls coach of the Prior Lake Lakers, has been a Section 6 coach for a very long time. I think, like our previous guest, you're a part of the Coaches Association too. We can talk about all the things that you do because I know you do a lot in girls lacrosse. Heather, welcome to Down the Alley.
Thank you. You guys are throwing me off with the Zoom stuff right now.
Hey, the fans appreciate it. All
Yeah.
3 of them. Heather, I know obviously you are a Section 6 coach, but what else do you do? Kind of in the lacrosse world, because I know you do a lot of things.
Yeah. Well, I don't coach club anymore, so I have freed up a little bit of time with not coaching club in the off season, and actually that's freed up a lot of bit of time. And but I am involved in our youth program. I have been since 2012. I was hired on as the development director in 2013, so been around our youth program for a while. And then I also am our Coaches Association on the girls' side president. I feel like that's kind of like anything that you get volunteered for, you get kind of voluntold to do those things. So but no, I really appreciate just getting to know our coaches. We just had our Coaches Association meeting on Sunday. So it's like, this is great timing in terms of just, rolling from that and just getting to meet so many different coaches and new coaches that are in the program too, or in the head coaching world. So.
Love it. Love it. Before we look forward to 2025, would love to, just talk a little history of Section 6. I know, you've obviously been around. I feel like as I look at these teams, Prior Lake's made it, Rosemount's made it, Edina's, I think, has made it, all in recent years. So I feel like Section 6 on the girls' side is, always super interesting. Would love to hear, what has gone on the Section 6, tournaments over the last, recent history.
Yeah, I think with section 6 in particular is it feels like we keep getting like the strong teams added into section 6. And I know that's the same thing on the boys side. It's like, man, it's like, oh, you're a strong program. We'll throw you into section 6 and see how it shakes out, like, let's keep things interesting. And I'm like, who's pulling the strings at the top here that's, doing all of this to us. But I mean, believed, and now I think, as playing fields kind of start evening out too, I had believed for a while that anyone that comes out of Section 6 is going to be in the championship game, at state. And so that was like a firm belief. And now I think, the playing fields are starting to even out in other sections too. But just we kept getting like, Rosemount got thrown in after, they went to state in what was it, 21, and when they beat Gentry, and then Edina got thrown in, or maybe it was kind of vice versa. So yeah, it's just been a tough section, and but here we are. So yeah, just in terms of who's come out of it, it's just kind of been a fair shake for everybody. It's truly what team wants it. It's a little bit of that March Madness feel, but that's how we want it. You don't want like just a total domination of one team.
For sure, for sure. As we look ahead, kind of how we've done it is kind of go team by team based on last year's ranking. So, last year the number one seed was your squad, the Prior Lake Lakers, dominating regular season. I think personally, I'm very biased, but maybe one of the favorite teams going into 2025, not just in the section but the state. There's gonna be a lot of competition in this section and around the state, but Lakers, what do you guys, what's the squad bringing back in 2025?
Yeah, I mean, right now I think we're at 12 commits. We have a strong squad of seniors that are coming back. I think I counted 9 seniors. Sophia Basil is coming back as well from her ACL tear. We always love to see, players coming back from major season-ending injuries. But I mean, it's just we have a lot of leadership that's coming back. We have solid juniors that are coming back as well. So I feel good coming into this season with the crew that we got coming back. So yeah.
How, Lance talked a lot about this on the boys' side. The Lakers never go away. How have you found and been able to, reload after class of, you might graduate a big offensive player or a good defensive player, maybe even a goalie. How do the Lakers continue to reload year after year?
I think it's really started from truly, like I say, from like the top down in terms of just the alumni that we've graduated out of the program and how much that they've given back to the program, to our, current senior class and our junior class who, want to get back to our youth program. And so it's really been just a true like trickle down effect in the program that, we have coaches that are playing Division I college and they come back and they're coaching our 8U squad, and so it's just like the care for the program. It was years ago, but I asked like, what's your secret sauce? And I was like, take care of your youth program. That is bridging the gap to your high school program. And so I really give it up just to our former players. We have former players on high school coaching staff as well. So they've just shown up for the Lakers. Like PL4L has really run deep with that.
Ted, what do you got on the Lakers? What are the sources saying around the state?
Yeah, Abby Grove, Division I commit, has points and stats kind of all over the field. Obviously a super accomplished player. This Tally Baldzicki is also another commit that had a lot of points last year. But I think one of the notes we had was freshman Madeline Ballou. Is it Ballou? Is that how you say it?
Mm-hmm.
She got a little bit of time at the end of the season last year, as a freshman on a team that was ranked in the top, 3 or 2 or whatever in the state. And so for a freshman to crack the lineup, obviously does something that the coaching staff likes, and has a skill set that's important. And I think she'll probably, maybe contribute a little bit more. So not only are there some high-end upperclassmen, there's some freshmen coming in and maybe sophomores now too, that contribute. The depth of this program is so important, and it's just a huge asset for deep title runs.
The number 2 seed last year, the Rosemount Irish, led by Kelsey Long. She's been there quite a long time now, it seems like. Heather, you might know how long, but coming off a very respectable season, 10-5, fell short in the section semis to the Hornets. How are the Irish looking going into 2025? Another squad that seems to never go away, seems to continually reload like the Lakers.
Yeah, I consider Rosemount like a never safe team. You know, you just never feel safe in a game against Rosemount. And so I think maybe it's semi-similar coaching styles with, you know, Kelsey and I and you know, it couldn't equate to being friends either. But you know, I think just like years of coaching together and us meeting through lacrosse, that she just like her IQ, her lax IQ is just incredible. You know, like I go to her sometimes and I'm like, hey, pick this team apart with me, and you know we just talk through it, and so I think she has I don't know, I can't confirm the rumor, but the rumor has that the twins are coming back. You know, that's a huge add for them if they are back and they're healthy. um and you know, I mean, Abby was just incredible for them last year, you know, and so I think that's going to be just again another ad for them. But they also have a solid 25 class. I think you guys talked about that last year on the podcast, was just like, you know, 22 is a big class for them, and then they graduated, and then 23, 24 was down a little bit, but then that 25 class was kind of like that next up and coming. And I know that's something that Kelsey has talked about too, is like, you know, that like wait for this 25 class to take leadership. And so, I mean, she's got Izzy, Emma, I can't remember if their goal, I think their goalie is a 26, Rachel. They have Aubrey on the draw. They have Nessa as well. So, I mean, there's a lot of different pieces that are coming back from that 25 team, that really kind of like bring everything together for them.
Correct me if I'm wrong, too. A lot of those 25s were there in
Mhm.
2022 that year. And so they've got that. We've been talking a lot about the like playing experience of underclassmen who maybe have been playing varsity now for a couple of years are finally upperclassmen. And I mean, a couple of those names I know for sure were on that roster. So I know she has specifically said it in person too of the 25 class. So yeah, never count them out. That's for sure.
And I think that's huge too. When you have a class that got a little taste of state, you know, maybe they weren't the, you know, starting lineup or, you know, got a ton of time, but like when you have players on your bench that got that like feel for it, it's like it adds that extra fuel and that little extra fire too. So yeah, I think to your point, Katie.
Ted, not a 2025, but is Izzy Donati? Is she brothers with the boy player we know?
Eco, yep, yep. And then this Abby Harris, is that Carter Harris's sister?
Hmm.
So
Abby and Maddie. Yeah.
and she only, like you said, got injured, missed some time, 10 games, had 60 points, but yeah, so she was productive in her 10 games as a freshman. So coming back now, I guess we'll see kind of where she, you know, you said there was rumors that they're back now. We'll see, but yeah, you know, like, and then some of the other players you mentioned on here as well, committed to Division 2, Division 3, really productive. Can't ever count Rosemount out. They're always a team they're well coached and they got athletes and they got resources. So, you know, they'll be a strong team, I think.
Last year's number 3 seed, Edina, the Hornets, after a 8-8 regular season, you know, they upset Rosemount in the section semis. Are the Hornets kind of on the rise, you know, coming off that season? You know, are they returning a lot, or what, you know, what are they looking like in 2025?
I mean, their 24 class, I mean, they did graduate a lot from their 24 class, a lot of talent from there. I know their goalie also graduated with that, which is always tough, you know, to fill those goalie positions. But you know, Josie Moe was a big force for them, Mia Maxwell, as well as Lyric Busby, you know, and those were top, you know, top players for Edina. And you think about state, you know, when they went to state in 2023, like those top few players were like huge game makers for them. And I think that happened with that 24 class. This year they have Catherine Ewers back, which she's been strong. That Kaylee, Idrago, Lamb, and Surrey Austin would be the three that I would put put out there as solid returners for Edina this year.
Yeah, this Surrey Austin, 30 points, 55 draw controls as a freshman. Another 2027. This is 2025s are loaded in this section, it feels like, and then a lot of good 27s as well of note. So, and then those other players that you mentioned also on my list as well.
Last year's 4 seed Bloomington Jefferson, a squad that we see at the Dome all the time. They seem to be training all off season long. And by an just kind of quick glance at last year's roster, it seems like they're returning quite a bit. Is this Jefferson's year to maybe take that next step? I feel like they've been close in Section 6. Are we going to see them in a section final in 2025?
Yeah, they've been, I feel like pretty consistently seeded number 4. So they always get, first round, and then second round is playing that number 1 seed, whether it was Edina or Rosemount or us, and so it's kind of the bad luck sometimes of like, okay, we're like, there, but like just keep, get that tough second round. But yeah, I think to your point, like I was looking at their, top 4 scorers, are all returning players. And so, Kylie Jones, Carly Lynn, B. Ruel, and then Talia Hammond, and so again, I think that's huge to have top goal scorers coming back for you, some players that you work in offense around, players that are playmakers for you out there as well. So I think, I know you talk about is it the dark horse of the section, and I would say Jefferson is in the loop, and they always have been in the loop. Like I said, they get that tough second round team.
Yeah, this Kylie Jones, interesting stat line, had 48 goals, 18 assists, so really productive on the offensive end. Then 51 ground balls, 36 forced turnovers, 97 draw controls. So kind of a utility player, does it all over the field. And then this Carly Lind you mentioned, 39 goals as an 8th grader last year on varsity in a tough conference, tough section. Interesting. She'll be around for a while, it seems like.
Yeah, that's impressive. Last year's 5th seed, Shakopee Sabres. Like the boys, I feel like this is a town and a program that keeps growing, keeps getting a little bit better every single year. How are they? Is this another team that, could take another step in 2025?
Hey, before we go, new coach alert, Mitch Benson, taking over the Shakopee Sabres. Formerly at BSM, but old childhood friend of mine. So
Shoot, I forgot to ask the boys' side. Okay, so girls, we've got a new coach in Shakopee. Any other new coaches that we should be aware of?
Kennedy has a new coach. Apple Valley will have a new coach. Shakopee, and then I'm trying to think of it. Anybody else that I'm aware of? Not that I'm aware of. I could look up on my list too, but those are the 3 that come to mind for new coaches.
Mitch, isn't he one of your friends or like grew up with them or something? What was that connection?
childhood friend. I've known him my whole life almost. Yeah.
So new coach, growing program, growing city. Heather, give us the girls lacrosse breakdown here. Are they taking that next step?
Yeah, I know Shakopee is like, the rival, at Prior Lake versus Shakopee. But I feel like that's always been like a big rival in so many other sports. Maybe not necessarily just, lacrosse wise. It's fun to like, beat the neighbor and everything. But, I think Mitch has been on a state roster with BSM. I think he's going to bring new ideas and new things to that squad. They did graduate quite a bit in that 24, like just quite a bit of talent. I don't know exactly the number of players in that 24 squad, but I coached a lot of those 24 players at club. So I know that was a huge hit for them of just, their midfielders to their goalie, and losing them. Maybe this is kind of like me being out of the club world and being a little bit of like putting my head in the sand, but I don't know a lot of some of the other players that are up and coming, and maybe that's a huge advantage to Shakopee as well, is like, hey, we can kind of like form a new offense, or implement new defenses in there, and that maybe some of us coaches are going to be a little bit more caught off guard with that, and not be able to like come in scouting already of like this is how Shakopee runs their offense or runs their defense, and here's how we're going to break that down. So to give you like a true breakdown, I feel like would be unfair, and I feel like I might leave players out of it, but I think that they have a little bit of the upper hand in that sense.
Ted, anything to add?
I don't have anything on Shakopee, unfortunately, outside of the new coaching change. Um, but I guess a kind of a note on them are sort of the middle of the pack teams in general is that kind of like Heather said, they got some up and coming players and some good youth programs. Like there is something to work with. And I guess we'll see, what kind of those players develop into, maybe not this year, but as we move forward in subsequent seasons.
The number 6 team, Holy Angels, led by my sister, Alexa, assistant coach, my stepdad. This is a streaky team. They kind of go on, runs of wins, runs of losses. This kind of group of teams is fun too because they might lose to a team like early in the season, then they'll play them later and then beat them. So it's been a fun team to kind of follow, and they have to do it a different way, than the big public schools in the around the section. It's kind of like what you got, at the school, or kind of who comes out. Anything on Holy Angels? I don't know if you've ran into them over the last year or two or not.
We haven't. I know it feels like we're kind of like ships passing in the night. It's like we know, and with Alexa, coming out of Prior Lake and coaching with us, I know she's doing something with that squad over there, but I truly I haven't seen them play. I know Taylor Lesnar, their leading scorer last year, she was a PLAY youth player for us. So I am familiar with her. Knew when she was going to Holy Angels that she was going to have an impact on that team early on, which she has. And she's only a junior, so they have that returning for them. And again, right, like I think it also is something that you're returning a coaching staff that's been, truly committed to that team and really developing that team over time. But yeah, we don't cross paths very often.
One thing PMAC, yeah, said like their conference, it's been really interesting to talk to Alexa because like their conference, they all play each other twice. So like it can go 1-1, and she'll talk about these games of like, yeah, we played them early in the season, and then we play them later, and it's like just it's not 2 games, it's 8 quarters now. Like it's just like it's sheerly, truly anything can happen, and like things like at half and like having just a smaller school in general is just kind of I think a challenge and stuff. But I just think that would be super interesting if we played, like, for example, like Stillwater, we open up our first game of the season and Minnetonka's our last. Like, what if we played each of those teams? And they're not even in our conference. What if we played our conference teams twice?
Yeah, we
like,
should.
That's just,
we should do it like college hockey.
Blowing.
Play Friday night and then play again Saturday.
Yeah. Like, it just, especially like the way like the weather is and stuff. Like, I'm just like that. Like some of the stories of like the games she has is just like she's like it's almost like not even playing the same team with bringing the same team because it makes it super interesting, and you'd think it would be kind of mundane, but it all seems like these games are all just as exciting playing each other twice than they are playing each other once, and so I think that's kind of cool, and you can also kind of gauge your squad, but yeah, it is kind of. We either see each other in the section semifinals or not at all.
Is this year 2 for Alexa or year 3?
2?
I think at least 3, isn't it? Katie, you think only 2?
I guess I don't know either. Nonetheless, a consistent coaching staff, and I've just been clicking through the Lax Hub a little bit. A lot of players from last year's team were juniors and sophomores, so now seniors and juniors this year. So, there's a lot of returning players for them, that were on the team last year that would be familiar with the systems and kind of maybe can pick up where they left off. So, I don't know, maybe a sneaky team to watch this year.
Number 7 seed, Eastview Egan. The Combos coming off of a tough year. Are they ready to bounce back in 2025?
I was just gonna pull up their player stats right now, but I hope so. And I say this because Egan has, I don't know what they're doing in their youth program, but they're doing something right. Because I would think for Jess and I think it was the River Valley tournament at Shakopee this year, and I went to one of the 14U games, and Egan beat us, and I was like, what just happened? When was the last time Egan has beat us? And so I'm like, something's going right in that youth program. And so, whether it's this year or, 4 years from now when those seventh and eighth graders are now juniors and seniors, I think something's brewing in the Egan Eastview EVE land. That I'm excited for. I think we always want teams up and coming, and I think it makes things interesting too when there's ebbs and flows and teams with who's coming up through the pipeline. So yeah.
It's fun to we talked a little bit about like the youth teams on the boys side with Lance too, and it's fun to hear, and you can kind of gauge like, all right, the future of a program, wherever they're at now. Just got a text, Lexa's 3rd season this year. Kind of gauge, like we were talking, farm the South Suburban, a lot of South Suburban teams in Section 6. A lot of them have really good like underclassmen right now on the boys side. So that's fun to hear, Eastview Egan, maybe they're going through a thin patch, they had to combo, in the last couple of years, but they got a squad coming up, it sounds like. Ted, what did you have? I think I cut you off.
Well, no, it's okay. They do have a handful of girls coming back that were 11th graders, last season. So seniors this year to take leadership roles. But one interesting note, they had 3 goalies last year that all saw a lot of time. So um, a senior that had 216 minutes played, another senior that 144 minutes, and then the junior who got the most at 312. Mackenzie White. It's going to be her cage this year, unless they have a freshman or something coming up. So interesting, like goalie rotation last year. Now they got like a set starter, which I'm assuming. So maybe that will just be a little bit of stability on the back end and some players coming back. So something interesting to note for them.
And to round out the section, we've got Apple Valley, Kennedy, Burnsville, and Minneapolis. If anyone has any notes on them, Katie, I know you're working with Kennedy right now.
Yeah, which I think they got a coach,
Mm-hmm.
right? The last time you and I had talked, they hadn't had a coach, and I'm pretty sure.
Anna Besser.
Yeah, she emailed me. A school that's very easy to work with because what they might lack, in stats and stuff, it's culture wise is just like such a breath of fresh air to go around. So I will always be their biggest fan. And I think they are co-oping with Burnsville this year to try to get some more girls, but everybody gets to play. It's cool that these schools are allowing this opportunity and, providing the resources that they can to let these girls go out and play, and makes me really appreciate the sport. You just want these programs to survive. Like, you just want them to just hang on till you maybe get a couple more girls and love it. And it's just super cool always to see. That's my soapbox for them. Like, it's always be their biggest cheerleader.
You know what I miss is the Bloomington bait bucket.
Yeah.
That was always a staple for
It really was. Like,
when did that die?
I know.
I like all of a sudden it was somebody asked me like, "Oh, bait bucket." I'm like, all of a sudden we weren't going to that tournament. When did it end?
Yeah, I think 3-4 years ago they stopped doing it.
Okay.
Yeah, that one was always like that first weekend in June. It was kind of
And you got a bait bucket, like an iconic trophy as far as trophies go.
shout out to
And it was a great tournament.
Yeah, shout out to Corey Hespenide, Brian Johnson, and
Yeah.
Johnson for putting that together back in
Yeah.
early 20.
Yeah.
The other exciting thing in Bloomington, I hear that their fields are getting lights.
That is
Or
correct.
one of their field
Both of
is.
them, I
Well,
think, are
maybe
both of them
one.
getting them? Kennedy for sure is getting lights.
Okay.
Kennedy's getting like fully renovated, I think, but I believe Jefferson's getting lights as well.
That was the deal when these activity centers were built, was that like you couldn't do one without the other, and I assume that's still
You can have a
the case.
7:30 p.m. game now. It doesn't have to be at.
Yeah.
Um, all right. We chatted a little bit about, and I remember you mentioned it, dark horses. Do you have a dark horse pick of the section? I think you teased it maybe a little earlier. If you had to pick one, maybe two, any dark horses in section 6?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, this section has been pretty top heavy recently, with Edina, Rosemount, and us. And then Jefferson coming in at that fourth seed, it's been pretty consistent. I wouldn't take Jefferson, ever overlook Jefferson, in that sense, but I think, maybe not for this upcoming season but I think Shakopee and Eastview, Egan, throwing them into the mix and having that be teams to watch and kind of the up and coming, that we're excited for. So
Love it. Love it. Looking towards the end of the season, which is weird, but comparing section 6 to, other sections, historically obviously have done really well, have competed, have made, good state tournament runs. In 2025, how do you think, whoever makes it out? I think there's, a few, teams that definitely could. How do you think they, potentially will fare at the state tournament compared to other sections?
yeah, I mean, God, I just feel like there's so like that 24 class had so many heavy hitters for so many programs, and like we just were like, okay, we graduate and I just feel like right now it's like, okay, it truly feels like anyone's game. It doesn't feel like there's just this like dominating force. Like last year it was like Lakeville South, like who's gonna beat them. We knew that going into the season, and so and of course, like undefeated season to win a state championship. Like it felt like we almost called it at the beginning of the season. But I feel like it's really anybody's year that won it. And I would have to go and look at every section, who moved into what sections, and and who's going to come out. I know there's been a few teams like Tonka making out of their section for the first time last year, which was exciting for them. And then you have like BSM that was returning, East Ridge, always a strong team coming back, and then like I feel like Orono's up and coming. I feel like
Yeah.
that's always been a topic of conversation. Like I'm excited to see them. We have a scrimmage at BSM early in the season, and I think Orono's going to be there, so it'll be fun to see them again early on in the season, to see what they're up to. But yeah, like I think whoever comes out of Section 6 is going to fare well, in the state tournament. But I think it's just going to be like so many unknowns of like, okay, we haven't seen any of these teams now in the state tournament, like, or maybe you have, and like how is things gonna kind of shake out for them? Scouting reports are gonna have to go deep this year.
You have to call your friends.
I know. Hey,
Um,
yeah, we just beat each other, like, but
yeah.
can we help each other? Yeah.
Um, we're not asking our guests this year to like rank the teams in your section. But do you have one bold prediction for section 6 in 2025?
Mm. Um, bold prediction. I always say, like, never safe with Rosemount. I think Kelsey's got something brewing over there. I know that their girls have been hitting it hard, in the at winter training or their captain's practices recently. However, their dome did just deflate again. So I don't know if Lance let you know
Lance
on that.
said the dome came down. He didn't say why or how or what. He kind of, and I didn't
It's
dig.
like
I
the
guess,
Metrodome over there. That's what we're calling it.
yeah. What's up with their dome? Do they have dome issues? Do they just
I
no
don't
air? Is the
know.
air different over there? Is the elevation different? What's going on the other side of 42?
Yeah, like I know it's like 10 minutes from my house here, like convenient, but I don't know. I don't know what's going on with I feel like that Rosemount Dome has been on its last leg for a while. Like I remember when I used to play softball in middle school and that we would go over to that dark dome, and it was like, "Oh, we have to go to Rosemount Dome," and I'm like, I know they got new lights in there after the deflation last year, but man, I'm like one of us is gonna get caught in there at one time. Whether it's the universal lines or that dome coming down, I don't know.
Oh, don't get me started on universal lines. Does that affect the girls though? Like, because it's girl lines essentially, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you, I don't know if you notice as much, but the restraining lines don't go all the way out because our fields are a little bit wider, so it
Right.
ends a little bit early,
So it's
and
narrower
then
for the girls.
if they choose to make it narrower,
Got
yes.
it.
But like a real girls' field, should be a little bit, outside those football lines. And then I don't know if it's true because I haven't measured it, but I feel like the goal circle's bigger. Like, like we
Oh,
get
I
so
don't
many
know.
more goal circle violations on a universal field than on, a boys and girls, lined field. I don't know how you all feel about it, but I feel like that goal circle is bigger because when ISD, what are they, 194 turfed all their fields. I was like every time we played away, it was like goal circle violation. I'm like, what is going on? We never have this issue, at any other school. So I'm blaming that.
No, yeah, I'm cool with that. Heather, thank you for coming down the alley with us, breaking down section 6, and good luck to you and your Lakers this spring.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys.
And thank you to Lance and Heather breaking down section 6, boys and girls. Um, Two really good sections, boys for sure, section of death. I'm not sure if the girls have a nickname or not. I should have asked. Um, Section 6, it was as crazy, was it as deathly as you expected it to be?
Yeah, Lance Kuehn, by the way.
Oh, Keen, not Coon. Sorry, that is
No,
on me.
we corrected it. You know, the girls is not as deep as I maybe had originally thought. I think there's some really good teams, but there's also kind of a bottom end. Whereas Section 6 boys, at least as of today and maybe last year, um, it's almost like the exact opposite. Like they're like isn't really a bottom end. It's just like a bunch of top 10 teams. Like as it stands right now, um, a super deep section. We talked about it. Like 6 and 7 seeds that go on the road in a quarterfinal could be like a top 15 team in the state, according to Lax numbers or Lax Hub or whatever you want, whatever ranking system you like to follow. So, yeah, two interesting, to kind of contrast, but overall, Section 6, the teams that are in Section 6, whether they're down currently or up currently, have had a history of success over the last 15 years of high school lacrosse in Minnesota. And Lance kind of talked about that a little bit on the boys side. I think you could say the same for the girls.
Rankings. This is going to be tough both on both sides for different reasons. I think this is going to be a tough section to rank, if not the toughest. And there's been some tough ones. I think section 5 girls last week was kind of crazy. That one was pretty nuts. Section 6. Let's start with the girls since they're more fresh in our memory. Um, I'll let you go first. Who do
Girls,
you got? And I'll text Katie for hers too.
um, yeah, I don't know if this is bold. Maybe it's a little bold. At number 4, I have Edina. At number 3, I have Rosemount. At number 2, I have the up and coming Jaguars of Bloomington Jefferson. And at number 1, I have Prior Lake.
Yeah, I think I don't think that's too crazy. Um, and it's going to be pretty similar to mine. I think it's going to be pretty similar to mine. At number 4, a lot of bias here. Coming off, I texted for some more information. Holy Angels last year at number 6 seed. That was their highest seed going into sections ever. And I think there's just momentum there. There's some bias here. I'm having them at 4. I think this might be a stretch. This might be a push, but I believe in my sister. I believe in my stepdad. I believe in what they're doing over there. Scotty Blado, friends of a lot of DTA Nation, UMD guy. Holy Angels at 4. Jefferson, I agree. You had him at 2.
Yeah, yes.
I have them written down. I'm trusting what I wrote down. I wrote them down at 3. Maybe I should have had them at 2. Rosemount at 2. They've got these twins coming back. I didn't dig. I didn't dig, at our guest, at our source that we had on. What twins are we talking? There's twin talk, so I'm like twins 2 seed. That's where my head was at.
Yeah, the twins, I believe, are the Harris twins, Carter Harris's younger sisters.
So if you got a Harris,
Not a Harris.
they've got 2 Harrises. They've got 2 Harrises.
Yeah.
So they don't just have a Harris; they have 2 Harrises that are twins that probably speak to each other without speaking through their minds. I think that's deserving of a 2 seed. And I agree. PL at 1. I think Heather was downplaying her squad a little bit. I think PL in 2025 is my number 1 preseason team, not only in Section 6, but in the state. Is there a little bias here? Maybe, probably, but objectively too, they're my number 1 team preseason ranking. I think this team is a wagon. I think this team is going to be a problem. Their only 2 losses last year were to the, I'm going to say it, Russians of Lakeville South.
Yeah.
And I think did they graduate some things? Yes. They've got Abby Grove. She's an absolute stud. Wasn't talked enough about in the breakdown. You gotta like Rosemount's got a Harris, Prior Lake's got a Grove, and you don't even need 2 of them. If you got 1 of them, you're gonna be okay. Prior Lake, and then they have 12 commits, like Heather said. There's a long list of really good players, but led by Grove. Grove is going to go off. She went off last year as a senior. Anything's possible.
No, I know we didn't kind of dig too deep. I kind of try to let the coaches that come on talk as much or as little about their team.
Yep, for sure.
But you're right, Abby Grove. I've seen not a ton, but a handful of Prior Lake girls lacrosse, just because obviously you and Katie are involved. One of my favorite players to watch play lacrosse, like collectively, just relentless. You'll be noticing her for sure.
And I'm interested too with this team, like with the graduations that they had. There are opportunities open. There's going to be a young player. I don't know how young, but somebody's going to step up. Somebody's going to pop off. It's going to be fun to see, this team, this roster, come together.
Yeah. And then Katie sent her rankings. She had to go, as she mentioned, go coach tonight, but she's going to have Shakopee at 4, Rosemount at 3, Edina at 2, and Prior Lake at 1. So PL gets the sweep here, but a lot of different combinations for 2, 3, 4 for this section for us. So
I like the Shakopee pick. Yeah, I like the Shakopee pick. I think Jefferson has to be in this though.
Well, Katie doesn't, I guess.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Fair enough. Um, over to the boys' side, I'm gonna ask you to go first just because I
I
don't
got mine.
I don't even know. I know who my number one team is. 2 through 4. Oh man, I don't know. There's like
Two through
7
eight.
teams here that you could sell me on.
2 through 8.
2 through 8, you could sell me on. Like this is
Oh,
crazy.
yeah, no, gosh, I mean, this is just an any given day. You could probably re-rank these teams. So, no matter what way we do this, we're gonna look like clueless idiots. I mean, we are, but like it's just kind of like whatever. But I have Rosemount at 4. I like what again. I like that up and coming class that got a lot of time last
They
year.
got the goalie. They might have the best goalie in the section, and he's a sophomore.
He's really good. And so I'm going Rosemount. My 3 is Eden Prairie. Um, just a defense that caused a lot of problems for teams last year, and they get them all back. Um, they have some question marks with their scoring, but
Dude, they have the best close defense in the section.
I, man, I mean, I don't know. I mean, Prior Lake is my 2, and they have a great defense as well coming back, and also have to replace scoring. I don't know if PL and EP will play
You're
regular
putting PL at 2?
PL at 2.
Wow.
Um, and I think this
Maybe I
goes.
need to change my 2.
Oh no, you don't change your 2. I just again from experience with PL as a program over its history, I think Lance made a great point that like the program is very good with next man up, and the system creates creates players that will succeed in roles. And kind of I guess going back to EP, I think yes, I would say 1A, 1B with top defense in the section as far as talent level. Um, and again, can you ever count Eden Prairie out? Like I'm not putting them in the top 4 anymore because they always seem to find a way, until proven otherwise. I got, like I said, PL at 2. Yeah, they got to replace some scoring, but we say it every freaking year. Like it's always PL's going to be down, or they lost this guy, or they lost that guy. And you know what? You're not going to fool me this year. So I have them at 2. I do have Edina at 1. Like I said in the beginning, they have to be the odds-on favorite for the state tournament this year for the state title, just with the talent level they have coming back, multiple Division 1 commits. They get their whole defense back, their whole offense. They get a +1 on offense of a guy who's probably a Division 1 talent that didn't even play last year. Um, and I agree with you. I kind of feel like the window has been kind of building to this season with this 2025 group for Edina. So they are my preseason 1. But, like we saw last year and like what Lance said, once you get to the playoffs in Section 6, I mean, it's bananas.
I have scribbles all over my paper. I had teams in. I moved them out. I think I moved a couple teams back in. Um, I think there's 7 teams that could be in the top 4 here. Um, I think my number 4 team, I think I'm going Eastview because Harris is back. I didn't know. Is he actually back? Because when Lance said that, I was like,
He is. He's a 2025.
God damn it! I thought he graduated a year, if not 2 years ago. Because yeah, he got injured last year, so I'm like, oh, obviously that sucked. I thought it was his senior year, and now he's coming back. He Who was the electric factory from Eastview?
Sam Arndt.
Sam Arndt. Is he a junior Sam Arndt? Like a like a
Oh man. I don't think he's I don't think he's as flashy
I
and like
thought he was.
factory, but he's super slick.
Yeah. Yeah.
Skill, box player, like he'll throw the BTB,
Yup.
but like he's not. I don't. From the little that I've seen him, um, he's not like pulling the ripcord from 25.
But that
But
was as a sophomore. Like this is 2 years later. I
yeah,
feel
he might now, and he is an electric player. I think it's in a different way though. He feels like a different type of player than Sam Art did, but
okay.
that's my personal opinion.
Okay. So because of this, because of the coaches kind of coming back for these reasons, and maybe I'm just reading the positives, and maybe I'm not diving deep. Eastview, they're my 4. Rosemount, they're getting a DTA bump here. They're my 3. I don't know if it's a DTA bump. I don't know if it's just a bump that they earned. They've got young players. They're a year older. They might have the best goalie in the section. He's a sophomore. Their window is now open. How open this year? We're going to find out, but it is open for the next 3 years. 3 seasons. They got this goalie. I think all bets are off. The window's open for the Irish. Jefferson is my 2. Last year of a graph, they bring back, I don't know, all their offense, most of their offense. One of the maybe the best Fogo in the section. Because of this, I'm high on the Jaguars. This is their window. For me, their window's open until June 15th or whenever their season ends this year. This is the window. Not that the window is getting slammed shut after this year, but there's a clear window here for Jefferson to win, for Jefferson to make a run. They have pieces to the puzzle. Jefferson's my 2, and Edina, for reasons that have been said pretty much all podcast long. They're a top 2, and maybe not 2 team
Top
in
3
the States.
preseason. Yeah.
Top 3 and probably not 3. They're a top team preseason in the state. They could be 1, they could be 2, they could be 3. I don't think they're a 3. I don't think they're a 3. I think they're a 1 or a 2. In a preseason ranking. Not that we're doing that right now.
Yeah, Katie, she has Shakopee at 4. She has Rosemount at 3. She has PL at 2 and Edina at 1. So a different 4th team. And I don't know. I mean, you could just pull names out of a hat, honestly, in this section and probably be somewhere close.
You bring up a nice point about teams that might look different, might do things differently, might have not a new head coach, but I think we have some breaking news according to sources.
One source.
What?
Yeah. According to one source.
One source. I will let you break this, but this could change up how a team. I don't know. Talking about a team maybe doing things a little bit differently, potentially change the look, potentially springboard a team to the state tournament, to go on a run. Ted, breaking news 2025. What do we got?
Yeah, and this the source is actually the source. So this isn't a second-hand source or third-hand source. This is the first-hand source. I've had this for a while. It's been hard not to break it, but I wanted to save it for the Section 6 episode. Our friend of the show, former Benilde defensive coordinator Sean Clemensrud, will be joining the Edina Hornets staff in 2025. I believe as a defensive assistant. I don't think it's the D coordinator. I think it's a assistant part-time type role. And no, a guy that loves film, does a lot of unique things on defense, has had a history of success at the high school level. That's a big add to the coaching staff for the Edina Hornets.
If you dove in, if you looked at his resume, wins, losses, whatever, you could go back, listen to it. He's been on the podcast multiple times. I think, there's been a lot of head coach hires. There's been a lot of assistant coach hires this year. There is every year. This might be the biggest hire of 2025. This might be, I don't think I can understate how big of an opportunity this is for the Hornets.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I think, their defense was young last year and is a year older, but they're talented. And they know they got the offense. And this is a nice boost to someone who's been able to win, consistently over the years and has been on the sideline, being a dad and doing some family stuff the last couple of years. Now has the itch to come back. And I think myself and a lot of us have been like, hey, when are you ready to come back? Like, why don't you join our staff? Like, trying to poke the bear a little bit. He has decided to come back, and I don't know what capacity the defensive assistant role has, but he will make an impact on that program.
Do you think him coming on down the alley a few times is the reason he is now going to his sideline, getting back on a team? He got to talk some lacrosse. Maybe some people got to hear him talk about lacrosse. Is down the alley the portal for free agent coaches? Is this the way for coaches to scratch their itches, to get behind a microphone, to get that itch going again, and then let other people hear what they have to say and make those connections virtually? Is down the alley the reason this all happened?
Yeah, I have to say it's 100% the reason. And these free agent coaches, that these big name coaches, they're on the they decide they need to step away. They like to listen to the pod. We start talking about teams and what they have coming back, and that they're a front runner to win their section, or they're a top team in the state. They got some elite young players coming up, and these coaches can't help themselves. They gotta get back in and go, all right, now's the time. So I would say we are a catalyst for free agent coaches that are looking to get back. Read the blogs, listen to the episodes, and figure out which team do you want to to join. And now with coaches, I feel like we're in the lacrosse coaching carousel. You can take a year off and just join somebody else the next season.
Yeah, if you're a free agent coach, you should be coming on down the alley, boosting your resume, boosting your stock. I'm sure board members start calling you, start hitting you up after you're on down the alley, couple eppies,
Yeah, no, I'm sure. It's unofficial official source of the Minnesota Lacrosse. It's the Minnesota Lacrosse podcast.
All jokes aside, congrats to Sean. Again, huge hire for Edina. And good luck to them this spring. Section 6 in the books. Next week, Section 7. Anything not section related that you need to get off your chest?
I do have something. How was your food that you had in Detroit?
So I've got two. Funny you ask, because my list, two food things. I went to Detroit, saw my sister play at Eastern Michigan. Got to spend a weekend in Detroit. Got to show Katie campus, show her the old stomping grounds. Food wise, though, going to these food places. I was talking to Turnbull before. I was like, hey, like, what's still around? Did some of these places close during COVID? He's like, no, you got to go back to Imperial for lunch. And it's this little hot dog and taco restaurant, but it's like super trendy. It's super cool. And when I was in college, like we'd go there, like not all the time, but it was a go-to spot. Like it was in the rotation for sure when you wanted like some nice food, go to a slightly nicer spot. And like I remember these, a couple of these places being super good, but in my head I'm like, okay, I was in college then, like have my standards completely changed. Like, am I going to go back to these places? Bring my wife here from Minnesota. You know, are they going to suck? We went to Imperial for lunch. And you might think a hot dog and a taco shouldn't be on the same plate. I'm telling you, better than I remember. Better than I remember. This place incredible. Hot the tacos were above average, like good. But then you throw that the hot dogs. I'm not like a huge hot dog guy. Katie likes hot dogs. I'm not a huge hot dog guy. These hot dogs,
They have a good snap.
good snap. They're like bacon wrapped. They got a bunch of crap on them. Like these things are maybe I'm not like describing this like it's a hot dog, but like it's not a hot dog that I've had anywhere else. It's loaded. It's probably Instagram worthy, but like like elite bite though. Elite bite.
Good. Yeah. No, hey, I mean, I'm sure it's great. Yeah. Like, and like, especially if you're not eating hot dogs a lot, to kind of get like maybe what you're describing as like a gourmet hot dog. It's like a little bit like above and beyond than just your standard 4th of July backyard barbecue type thing. That could be like, that's like different, and it like kind of surprises you a little bit.
So we had that for lunch day one after we like saw campus and whatever before we saw campus. Hung out with Charlie, hit that place up before. Last meal of the trip, skipping to the last meal, barbecue. Really the first place that I had like real barbecue. Like I had barbecue before I went to college, like, whatever, like not to like chirp any places, but like this was like the first time it felt different. It hit different. And we went there like when they were taking me out to school, my parents, and me and Scotty Blado, getting a lot of shout outs. We go through the whole meal. We're having ribs. We're trying this. We're trying that. It was dessert time. Instead of ordering dessert, we ordered another rack of ribs. This was like 10 years ago, first time there. So this place was like my introduction to like elite barbecue. And again, I'm going back here. I'm like, oh, like, was it as good as I remember? Like, and talk about a part of town that's changed. 10 years ago, 8 years ago, even when I was going to this part of town, you're getting in, you're not talking to anybody on the street. You're looking over your shoulder a little bit. You're getting in, and then you're getting out, and you're not hanging out outside of the restaurant. Like, you're good inside, but you're leaving and you're going away afterwards. This part of town, completely different, completely changed. The Michigan, there's this massive building. I didn't even know what the building was. We go back to this building, or sorry, we go back to Slows, and there's this building that I remember. And again, last time I was there, windows were shattered, graffiti, the whole bit. This massive building, didn't know what it was just completely torn to shreds. And it was kind of like the epitome of Detroit. Like, it kind of like encapsulates the fall of Detroit. And we go back there. This whole area was rebuilt, super nice. People are walking around, cleaned up, gorgeous. No signs of like your car is going to get stolen if you park here. Like, those signs are gone. And this building was like completely like there's windows. Like there's people walking in and out of this building. And we got there early before my sister got there, and we are like, well, let's drive around, let's check it out. Like, this is nice now. And we decided to walk in randomly. Like, we are like, well, there's people walking in, let's walk around, let's go check it out. It completely like rebuilt. It's the Michigan train station, like the original Detroit train station. And the Fords bought it, I guess, in 2018. So like right after I graduated, the Fords bought it, rebuilt it. Like, there's this whole story. We bought the book. Like, it's like a like kind of like a little museum-ish part. And then they got like stuff.
Active train station, like you can take trains in and out of there. Or is it like like you said, a museum towards like what was happening?
It's like a museum towards what was happening. The last train was 1988, I believe. But now they were like rebuilding it. They refurbished it. They cleaned it out. There's some like museum-ish parts, but I think they're going to like rebuild out some of the office buildings. So there are companies that are under the Ford umbrella, I believe, like working out of it, and there's like more space available or something. So really cool story, really cool. Like, I don't know, just like kind of like blew my mind as we like went through it. I'm not like a museum guy typically, but like, I don't know, it really,
See a place that was like basically desolate when you were there and like maybe not the nicest part of town to actually have like life now again.
yeah.
Like to Detroit. I know Detroit has done a lot to like revamp their infrastructure, their image over the last, 10 years or whatever.
And your dad, like being an architect guy, I'm sure he would like go through that. Like they,
Yeah.
Rebuilt it out to, they tried to like do it back to the original structures and things. So, I bet your dad would love to like kind of look at that stuff. But, after that, went back to Slows. Incredible, great barbecue. Ordering some sauce, ordering that one of the sauces to have them shipped back. They had this like apple barbecue sauce. I'm giving one to the big man. I don't know. I don't think the big man has made like an apple barbecue sauce, and it's not like fruity, but it was different than like anything I've had before. I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be a DTA sauce. I don't know if he can whip something similar. I don't know. But I'm giving it to the big man. I think this could be trippy. This could get weird. This sauce was incredible. And bite for bite, as good as I remember. And it was like, yeah, just boom, barbecue. Now I remember why I fell in love with barbecue. It started at Slows. And I'm glad the food. We had other food too that was great, Greektown and everything. All the food across the board, as good as I remember, and I'm glad that like it wasn't like college good. Like the food scene in Detroit is good.
You go in with high anticipation and sometimes you can like not live up to it, but
Yeah.
it sounds like it did.
Yeah. Great food scene. Cool things to see. Like you think of Detroit, it's not the sexiest, it's not a beach, right? But it's a cool town. It was fun. Food scene's elite. It checks a lot of boxes, I will admit.
Spring break is coming up here, so if you don't want to spend the premium to go to a beach, you probably can get a decent flight to Detroit and try some great food.
Hey, eat
Watch
some
some college
food, stay at MGM Detroit, you get your gamble on, do what you got to do.
And hey, you could watch some college lacrosse. There's a couple college Division I, Division II, 3 college lacrosse teams up there. So, yeah, sounds like a great trip.
It was a good one. It was a good one for sure. One for the books. A good one to get in here before April 1st starts. It's April 1 through July 31st. It's hard to get a hold of me unless you are on the field and you need me on the field.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, Section 6, crazy section, headed to Section 7 next week. Teams that maybe aren't quite in our area, so we'll get to learn more about some teams that we don't see a lot, which have been kind of on the rise and getting better every year, I feel like. So we're excited to talk to some coaches about those teams that kind of are up and coming.
Love it. We will be back next week. Thanks for tuning in to Down the Alley.
Are you looking for a dedicated partner for your lacrosse needs? ES Lacrosse has got you covered. If you're brand new to the game, a seasoned vet, or a dedicated lacrosse parent, ES Lacrosse is the go-to partner for Minnesota Lacrosse and DTA Nation. Whether you need new gear, a restringing of your current setup, custom uniforms or apparel for your team, or one of their awesome starter sets for your brand new lacrosse player, the selection, expertise, and service at ES Lacrosse is unmatched. You can visit them in-store at one of their 3 metro locations in Woodbury, Chanhassen, and Vadnais Heights, or visit them online at eslacrosse.com. Hey, DTA Nation, with the spring season right around the corner, that means it's time to start planning those grad parties. Old Southern Barbecue has great catering options for your senior. You can go with the barbecue staples like wings, ribs, or barbecue sandwich sliders, but they even have an incredible mac and cheese bar option as well. Congrats to all the seniors from DTA and OSB as you head into the final chapter, and go to oldsoutherncatering.com to get your grad party planning underway. And make sure to tell them that DTA sent you.